Throughout the 7th and 8th centuries, the acquisition of Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, was the chief Muslim goal. That great city controlled the Bosphorus and thus access between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. It also guarded the entrance to southern and central Europe. The Muslims first attempted to take the city in 655 when Caliph Othman, the third caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate, sent out a naval expedition. Although the Byzantine fleet decisively defeated them, the subsequent assassination of Othman and the War of Succession provided a respite. In 669, the Muslims mounted a second attempt, and thereafter, Constantinople came under intermittent attack. Several attempts in the 670s were turned back when the Byzantines defeated the attackers at sea. But the greatest threat to the city and to Byzantium came in the siege of 717 to 718. We've already looked at how Leo the Isaurian came to power right here in this video, and you can see why he needed to secure the city of Constantinople. His enemies, supporters of the previous emperor, were massing troops outside the city walls. Caliph Suleiman, who had seized control of the eastern part of the Rashidun Caliphate after defeating his brother in war, wanted to distract Leo and the Byzantines from any possible counterattack by launching an all-out assault on Constantinople. Constantinople was built on a promontory that jutted into the Bosporus. On the north of the city was the so-called Golden Horn, an inlet of the Bosporus forming a natural harbor, and on the south was the Sea of Marmara. The city was protected on its western or landward side by both inner and outer walls. The inner wall had been built under Emperor Constantine the Great, and the outer wall was constructed under Emperor Theodosius II and was some 4 miles in length. Normally, the city population numbered about 500,000 people, but in 717, it must have swelled from refugees. Until the invention of gunpowder, the only practical way to take a strongly held city was by blockading and starving its population. This meant closing both the Bosporus and the Dardanelles, a difficult feat because Constantinople flanked the Bosporus from the south. Everything depended on the Byzantine fleet, which was markedly inferior in numbers to that of the attackers. Maslama, brother of the Caliph and uncle of Suleiman, commanded the operation against Constantinople. He took personal command of the land force of some 80,000 men and gave command of the 1,800 ship fleet, transporting another 80,000 men to Suleiman the general. Not to be confused with the caliph of the same name. The attackers also had some 800 additional ships preparing in African and Egyptian ports, while the caliph was assembling a reserve army at Tarsus. Maslama crossed over the Dardanelles to Europe, probably in July 717, and then moved overland to Constantinople, arriving there on August 15th. Maslama ordered his troops to entrench before the city. He attempted a land attack, but the Byzantines beat it back. Maslama then ordered his men to surround his camp with a deep ditch and decided to reduce the city by blockade. He therefore instructed Suleiman the general to divide his fleet into 2 squadrons, one to cut off supplies from reaching Constantinople via the Aegean and Dardanelles, and the other to move through the Bosporus and sever communications with the city from the Black Sea. In early September, the Second Fleet got underway to sail north of the Golden Horn, where Leo III had his fleet. The entrance to the harbor was suspended between 2 towers that could be raised or lowered. When the blockading squadron approached, the strong current in the Bosporus threw the leading ships into confusion. Leo immediately ordered the chain lowered, stood out with his galleys, and attacked the broken Muslim formation with Greek fire, destroying 20 ships and capturing others before retiring to the Golden Horn on the approach of the main body of Suleiman's fleet. Suleiman the general made no further attempt to force the strait, and Leo was thus able to bring in supplies and prevent Constantinople's surrender through starvation. To add to Maslama's difficulties, his brother, Caliph Suleiman, suddenly died, and his successor, Omar II, turned out to be a religious bigot, but no soldier. Omar continued the siege by land, but then winter set in and was unusually severe with snow. Many of the besiegers died in these conditions, among them Suleiman the general. In the spring of 718, an Egyptian squadron of 400 ships arrived. Passing Constantinople at night, it closed the Bosporus. The Egyptian squadron was followed by a squadron from Africa of 360 ships and the reserve army to reinforce the land troops, who had reportedly been reduced to cannibalism. Although the closure of the Bosporus would have in time forced Constantinople to surrender, a large number of the crewmen on the Egyptian ships were impressed Christians, and many were able to desert and provide accurate intelligence. Choosing an opportune time when his enemy was unprepared, Leo again ordered the boom lowered and came out of the Golden Horn to engage and defeat the Egyptian ships. The Christian crewmen deserted en masse. Many Muslim vessels were destroyed by Greek fire and others were captured. This gave Leo control of the Bosporus. He followed it up by ferrying over to the Asiatic side a sizable land force which trapped and routed a number of Muslim troops. Leo was also active diplomatically. He arranged an alliance with Terbalus, king of the Bulgars, who then marched against Maslama and defeated him, probably in July 718, somewhere south of Adrianople. Some 22,000 Muslim troops are said to have been killed. Leo made adroit use of disinformation as well, scattering reports that the Franks were preparing to send large forces to the aid of Constantinople. The Caliph finally recalled Maslama, who raised the siege on August 15th. It had lasted exactly 1 year. The fleet embarked the army, landing them on the Asiatic shore of the Sea of Marmara. The ships then sailed for the Dardanelles, but en route they encountered a great storm. Reportedly, only 5 galleys out of some 2,560 in the siege returned to Syria and Alexandria. Of the land forces, which some estimates place at more than 200,000 men, in 739, Leo won a land victory that compelled the Muslims to withdraw from Western Asia Minor. Leo's leadership was key to the Byzantine victory.